Welcome to Other Stages episode 18. My guest today is Shane Scurvy Spears. We're going to have a chat about his comedy and his filmmaking, plus we're going to get to enjoy a really funny animated short he created, and Shane's going to tell us all about his really awesome day job. Now, the subject of day jobs comes up a lot on this show, and that's, well, because most creative people have to have a day job to pay the bills. But if you really want your creative work to take off, should you quit that day job and devote 100% of your energy to your creative efforts? Or should you keep that day job so you have the stability you need for your creative work? It's a tough question. Now, recently, I mostly finished a project that I've been working on for a while. It's a custom setup that I call the PortaOrgan. I showed a few pictures of it last week, and on today's show, all the music is going to be performed on this new instrument. So, I would like to start with a piece that I actually played last week, but on the big organ. Now we're going to hear it on the PortaOrgan, just so you can hear the contrast. This is my ambient work called Regrets. So I would like to thank each and every one of you for supporting Other Stages. It's your ongoing contributions that make this show possible. When you have a chance to give, please keep Other Stages in mind. You can always find my Venmo, PayPal, and Patreon links in the show description. Shane Scurvy Spears is an award-winning writer, comic, filmmaker, theatrical performer, and he's based in Fresno, California. His background includes sideshows, circus, vaudeville, carnival barking, and a cornucopia of nowhere dead-end jobs. He has been a furniture mover, a goat wrangler, a cash register monkey, a stagehand, a radio personality, a bartender, a photographer, a phone psychic, and a snake oil hustler, on top of being a fire eater, and now he makes his living as a professional exotic animal trainer. So please enjoy my conversation with Shane Scurvy Spears. Shane, thank you for joining me on the show today.
And thank you for having me.
Oh, great. So you, like a lot of creative people, are dabbling in a lot of different things. You're a writer, you're a comic. I've seen you on stage most of the time, but you're also doing some animated stuff and video work and on. The list goes on. So, growing up, when did you first realize that you wanted to be a performer, filmmaker, writer, etc.?
I don't know if I knew when I wanted to be a performer, because I was a painfully shy child. I got stuck in choir, and I don't know how I volunteered for that, but I was terrified to sing with my mouth open too wide. But I knew that I wanted to be creative, and that was at a really young age. I think I would frequently get art sets and stuff like that for birthdays, because I would draw and paint, and I had a big imagination, and so I think I always knew I wanted to do something creative.
What were some of the things that maybe sparked your creative imagination as a younger person?
I think just living in that time in America, in that childhood, I think I drew a lot on pop culture things that I saw. I saw Star Wars from a young age, and I loved fantasy movies and Conan the Barbarian, and my dad let me watch a lot of shit that probably wasn't appropriate for my age. So I got to watch stuff that was challenging and that confused me at the time, but really kind of provoked my imagination. And I got to listen, to things that I would hear the adults listen to, because it felt like a different time. It was okay for kids to be around partying adults. They would just go read your magazine, and so I got to hear a lot of things. I remember being at an adult party and hearing Robin Williams doing stand-up as a child, and I'm trying to grok it, and I'm trying to understand, and he's so freaking entertaining, and even though I don't get it, I respect his performance. And so there's two layers happening. There's loving the manicness and the energy and the different voices as a child, and then getting older and becoming a teenager and starting to get the jokes and the context. And so I think that really helped, having that around me, being exposed to it.
It kind of sounds like your family was generally supportive in their own way of you being a creative person.
Absolutely, yeah. I would say, to much more than any reasonable person could expect, because, there were times where they kind of weren't as encouraging, but that's when I was kind of more of a wastrel teenager, and they're like, all right, yeah, be creative. Get a frickin' job, so, but no, yeah, it's always impressed me the level to which my family has supported my endeavors, especially some of my family that's much more conservative than me. And still, they come to my shows. I remember my grandmother coming to one of my stand-up shows. She's a very sweet, very conservative lady, but also very temperamental. She was very much of a firebrand. And we would argue like cats and dogs, but she'd come to my show, and afterwards she'd say some stuff like, I just don't agree with you, but I'm so proud of how you say the words so good.
Can you tell us anything about perhaps the genesis of your particular comedic approach?
Oh, well, I mean, obviously, anybody who's ever seen my material can tell that I'm like worship George Carlin, of course. My first ever real serious hero crush. I just thought his style and approach and his writing was just amazing. Like I remember very specifically, I was familiar with stand-up comedy. Like I said, I heard Robin Williams stuff when I was a young kid, but I was used to watching like these 5 to 10 minute long comics on like stand-up Saturday night shows or late night shows, and so that's kind of what I thought stand-up was. It was a kitschy, punchy 10-minute sharp bit, like set, and then you're good. I remember being at a party, and the George Carlin album "What Am I Doing in New Jersey" was just kind of playing in the background, and the party started to move out of that room and into another room. But I stayed and listened to the album. Like, I got into it. I'm like, who is this guy? And they're like, that's George Carlin. I'm like, Rufus from Bill and Ted? And because I grew up in the 80s. I'd never heard long-form comedy like that was so well-constructed. And then so I picked up the next album, and that one was even better. And it was just like comedy opera. Like, from beginning to end, everything was written and executed in a beautiful, rhythmic, strategic, kind of poetic way. And even the parts that weren't really laugh out loud funny were engaging, and I was just kind of enraptured by how good the man was at constructing his performances.
I do want to show a clip of an animation thing you did.
Oh.
And it's perhaps more channeled righteous rage. You're talking to a telemarketer, and you've animated what this might have actually looked like on both ends had your character been real, but I think we can all relate to being annoyed with a telemarketer, and you really did a number on him, so let's roll the clip.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me a little better now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry about that. I don't know what was going on. My name is Adam. I'm calling with the National Association for Medical and Dental. I was calling in regards to the new low-cost dental plans that are now available for you. Were you currently in need of any major dental work?
Oh, yeah, my teeth are all up on account of the methamphetamine I smoke on a daily basis. Like, I smoke a lot of meth.
Sir.
A ton. You know what I mean? A ton. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, sir, what I can do for you is I have a specialist. He can go over some options with you, so if you ever do want to get any work done in the future, he can make sure that maybe he can find you a good coverage. What's your name so I could introduce you?
Wait, you got a specialist that's just for meth addicts?
We have a specialist that could help you if you want to get some medical or some dental work done in the future.
Now, will he give me methamphetamine if I come to him?
No, sir. We just
hey, there's applause going on. Is that for me?
Oh, that's just someone's birthday in the office today.
Oh, yeah? So tell them I said happy birthday. What's their name?
Do you want to speak with a specialist, sir?
Are they special?
They could help you if you need dental coverage.
Can they help me with other personal problems?
They can help you with dental.
But no help with the meth or getting the meth?
Just dental. That's illegal.
You know what I need? Validation.
Sure they could give you some validation. I mean, I'm sure they could let you know more about our company if that's what you want to know. Actually, I'll go ahead and let you go, sir. You have a great day.
Adam! I need meth! Give me the meth, Adam! Adam?
So can you tell us, this is a really clever idea in my book, and how did you come up with this? This is just an awesome thing.
I started recording the calls because the thing about telemarketers is that they almost routinely tell you that, like, if you ask them, is this call being monitored, they have to tell you, right? Especially in California, because California is a two-party state where both parties have to consent to recording a phone call. If they're scammers, they'll universally lie, which is good enough for me to legally be able to record it. And if they're not, then they'll say, yes, of course, we're recording it, because what most people don't know is on a telemarketing call, there's always at least two people listening, or two people on the call end. So it's always a three-way conversation on that, except one of them never talks. They're just monitoring the other person. So I thought, man, that's really funny because I like messing around with the telemarketers and wasting their time because they're really, really freaking annoying. And if I can waste the time of telemarketing and just cost them money just engaging in stupid antics, it's a win for all of civilization. And I'm not entitled. And the thing I want to be clear is I don't hate the people, the callers necessarily, because I have been a telemarketer, like a legit non-scammer one, and it is a wretched, humiliating job, possibly one of the worst things I've ever done for money, and I've literally set myself on fire for cash. So I don't have a lack of sympathy. Like, I'm coming from a place of understanding, but I do love wasting their time, and I think because these people, they're wasting their time too. So I figure it's all fair. So I started recording it, and then I didn't know what to do with the calls, and I'm doing it on the fly. Like, I don't have a script or anything. So some of them, I just flubbed everything. Like, I'm like, yeah, your butt smells. Wait, no, sorry, it's 7 a.m., man. I'm not like. So I just basically cut the best ones out, and I just didn't know what to do with them. So I thought I'll animate them. And during the pandemic, I taught myself how to do animation because I had nowhere else to go and nothing to do outside of going to work.
Good that you bring that up, because my next question is, as all our creative people do, most of us have to maintain a side hustle. Some people call it a day job. I call it a side hustle. And sometimes we're lucky to have a side hustle that's related to our creative efforts. And sometimes we don't. And you're a person who doesn't, but you have what I think is an enormously cool job. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I train exotic animals for a living. I take care of very large, very strong, very potentially dangerous animals, and I teach them to do stuff, and I take care of them, and I pick up after them, and wash them, and make them exercise, and eat their vegetables, and yeah, I'm a nanny for large animals.
And I've seen you in action with the very large animals, and I think it's kind of an inspiring thing to see, because I know that I guess his name is Moosey.
Yeah.
He obviously trusts and likes you, and
I hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I get to work with elephants. I mean, I don't think it's a secret. It's pretty amazing. Like, I've had a lot of side gigs, and that's probably the most extraordinary side gig I've ever had, because that's, for a lot of people, that's the main gig. That's like the gig that's a very desirable thing. Like, people hear you work with wild animals like elephants, and they're like, how do I get that job? Because you can't. It's hard to complain. And certainly there are complaints about any job, like my feet hurt, I wish I made more money, blah 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 blah. There's always those complaints about any job, but at the end of the day, you still get to hang out with wild animals all day, which is very cool.
And what are some of the other perhaps weirder, less desirable gigs that you've done to keep the bills paid? Anything fun?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. A lot of retail. So I've sold books and photos and film and cameras and chemicals and TVs and vacuums and videotapes and just about everything you can imagine behind a cash register. I did bartending for a little while and didn't make very much money. I was a phone psychic. That was an interesting job. I still haven't really written much about that. It's a very interesting, essentially kind of a therapy role, but it's for people that don't want to go to therapy but need to acknowledge that somebody has magic powers and can solve their problems because they feel helpless. And I I had to actually get out of that because it was too sad.
I would imagine, yeah. I would
Yeah.
imagine.
And it's, you don't make much money doing it unless you got like a really loyal clientele, and that's like really serial scamming, it feels like. But it's not always. It's a weird relationship, you know. It's like there's probably people who pay phone psychics just to talk, and they're like homies, but it's a transactional relationship, and everyone knows it, you know. That does happen. It's just like a sugar daddy and his favorite stripper, you know. They're both using each other, so I mean there is a power differential, but you know it's like sometimes people use each other and they're cool, so you know it takes all kind. I felt too weird about it. I had a guy ask me like, "Is my wife ever coming home?" I'm just like, man, I'm like, I don't even know what to tell you, man. I think you need to like go to couples therapy or at least acknowledge that she's moved on, man. Like,
ouch. Yeah, that could get depressing real fast.
By the way, it's $7.95 for the next 10 minutes. Yeah. Makes you feel like, as much as I wish I could be a complete, like, wastrel scammer and feel no remorse for fleecing the stupid, I just feel bad for him on a long enough time frame.
You have too much empathy for that.
It's a curse. It really is.
You know, another thing that is a common theme on the show is that creative people, we're maintaining some job to pay the bills. Our creative work is maybe just a hobby, or maybe it's a part-time venture. We're lucky if it gets to be the full-time thing.
Right.
But then that kind of creates this three-ring circus. We got to have our gig to pay the bills. We got to keep up with our creative life.
Right.
And we still have to have a personal life. So how do you feel you're doing with like the work-life balance?
Terrible. It sucks. It's awful. I mean, like, I'm just so tired. I'm so tired. I guess it was easier when I was younger, and now it just feels like, I don't know. Like, I guess there's times where I feel like I'm making progress on a really cool project, and then I'm energized. And so I don't need to summon up the energy. It's just, the other thing is, the world is so freaking noisy, and cutting through the morass of everybody wanting you to look at them and trying to get people to look at any creative work, it just feels like so much palm greasing and glad handing and transactional interaction, and it's just kind of like tough, right? So I think most of the people I know that really just want to sit in the lab or the studio or on the stage and just create art, just rampantly and recklessly, they don't want to have to figure out what goes on the press poster. Like, you figure that out, marketing people. Like, we're the artists, we're the talent, you sell it. And some artists are fantastic salespeople, and that's amazing to me. That's a whole different skill set that I wish I had. And those are the people I find that are very, very successful. They have the two skill sets working for them. They got the talent, and they got the drive to sell it or the skill to sell it, and those are the people that seem to really make a life out of it. And so jealous.
Yeah,
I could figure that out. Like, I could sell Rubes a $2 bottle of dirty water with a sticker on it, but I can't sell my own work.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So what would be your working definition of success as an artist?
I think, I think basically if you can make a living at it, and that's your job, that's your 9 to 5, and you can make a living, whatever you define that living as. If it's living out of a van, and that's fine, and you're living gig to gig, you're living the dream. You've done it. If you wanted to have a Las Vegas residency, you made it. I think for me, it would be able to afford a modest, sustainable lifestyle, and to be able to do it 9 to 5, I think would be making it. And then whatever success on top of that would be just icing on the cake, really.
So, what are maybe some of the unexpected twists and turns that you've come across as you've developed your creative career?
I used to. You never met me or probably saw my early work, which was primarily prop based.
Okay.
Stage work, prop based, like a clown. I kind of got my start in like more of the Renaissance fair vaudeville kind of world. So most of my performance involved bellowing stuff while juggling and like throwing machetes around and doing kind of more stunt oriented stuff. I think during that period of my life, I wanted to be where I'm at now, but I didn't have the guts. Talking in front of people is very daunting. People suck. They're mean. I'm like, what if nobody gets what I'm saying? What if my stuff is garbage? And then you just, I think getting over the idea that I needed to have props moving around in front of me to be entertaining, I think getting over that was probably the biggest leap ever in my career, if you could call it that. And then I think figuring out that I could do more complex stuff. Like I think the first time I went from being a solo act where I was just kind of ranting on stage to writing and like executing a multicast show with everybody having scripted parts and like techies and lighting stuff and like writing a script that I had to give to somebody else that had cues, and I'm like, do you understand my chicken scratch? Because I didn't ever had any theater background. Like I had to. The first time I did a multicast show and they asked me for a script with lighting cues, I ended up Googling how to write lighting cue, like typing, because I didn't have the theater background that, like, you know, I didn't do it in school, I didn't do it in college, I didn't know. I knew professional theater people, but they didn't consort with the likes of me. Like, the first time I ever was in an organized type circus that had funding, I was like the street scum busker that came in off the street. Like if it was an 80s movie, I would have been the rough kid with the leather jacket that by the end find redemption and you know. I've always been fringe. So I think doing a multicast production that was like that made me think differently about how I do creative stuff.
Yeah, cool. So, you got a new project coming up. You sent me some info about that. Before we finish up here, let's dive into that a little bit. Tell us about it.
All right. It is a new animated series called Saving Throw Versus. And for any gaming nerds out there, like going way back, tabletop Dungeons and Dragons, that thing, you'll recognize that term Saving Throw Versus, which I probably couldn't even accurately describe what that means anymore. It's been too long since I've read the basic Dungeons and Dragons rulebook. But it is a Dungeons and Dragons reference. A saving throw is like a roll you make against some kind of effect, like a death ray or a poison fog. It's really nerdy, fun gaming stuff. And so it's basically takes place in this kind of Dungeons and Dragons type fantasy world, and this party of adventurers is engaging in funny antics and running around and doing crazy stuff, and it's fun. It's if you like fantasy, if you like gaming, if you like really caustic humor, I think it's really funny. The script for the pilot was it's really prescient. It's got a little bit of political satire in there. The characters are all kind of scumbags and kind of these likable wastrels that are completely morally repugnant one way or another. It's really fun. And
that does sound fun.
Yeah.
It is. Like it's right up my alley.
I think the way I pitched it to my current crop of writers that are working on it, like my friends, basically. I recruited a bunch of my friends that I think are really funny. And the way I pitched it to the writers and the future voice actors for all the characters is, imagine if you took It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and put those kind of characters into a Dungeons and Dragons setting. And then once I said that, I'm like, that's it. That's kind of the pitch, because I really love that show, and I love how they create these completely selfish, egotistical, narcissistic sociopaths, and you love them.
Yeah, somehow you still like them, and that's the incredible thing about
Right.
that show. We fell in love with that show when it came out, and oh yeah, that's a good one. You know what, buddy? We're out of time for today, and I can't thank you enough for being on the show. This has been a fun conversation.
Well, thanks for having me, and I hope you're having a fantastic pandemic.
The next piece I'd like to play on the new PortaOrgan is a piece I call Lost Soul. Have you ever felt like you were detached from life, like maybe the world was passing you by and you weren't really a part of it? Well, that's what this music attempts to describe. You must quit your day job and devote 100% of your energy to your creative endeavor if you ever have any chance at success. You must keep your day job if you're ever going to have the stability you need to build a creative career. If you search, "Should I quit my day job or keep it?" on YouTube, you will find thousands of videos that passionately extol the virtue of both of these positions. So which one is right? Last week we took a look at actor Paul Raci, who is an Academy Award nominee and a successful actor by any measure. He is absolutely adamant that you need to keep your day job. But to be fair, he has a day job that is completely flexible and happens to be a deep, heartfelt passion of his. That's not really the same thing as holding on to a 9-to-5, soul-crushing, energy-sapping, dead-end job at some faceless corporation. Today's guest has a day job he loves, but I'm sure that if his creative work ever takes off, that he will probably let that job go. The how-to gurus of the world all act like this is some kind of easy decision. They have bold and absolute answers from both directions, so there's nothing to really inform us but our own gut. My day jobs are for the most part flexible, and they are directly related to my creative work. But they do take time and energy from what I really want to do most, which is to be in front of an audience sharing music and stories. I've met people who have done it both ways and succeeded, and I've met people who've done it both ways and failed. So, what's the answer? In the mid-1990s, I was fed up with being a musician. Things were not going well, and I had just been fired from what I thought was my dream job by my new boss, who made it very clear to me that I was expected to perform certain favors in exchange for keeping my job. I was angry and humiliated, so I went back to school, and after 3 years of hard work, I was a licensed electrician. On day one of my new job, I knew I had made a mistake. All I could think about was that I'd rather be playing music. And one day, I was in an attic trying to fix some hack's terrible work. It was a summer day, and it was like 100 degrees outside, so it was probably 140 inside that attic. And while I was working, I was also trying to formulate how I could keep doing electrical work and have some kind of musical career. Well, that was obviously impossible. But I couldn't stand the thought that the past 3 years of time and money were all a waste. So I kept slogging through attics, fixing wiring problems, all the while wishing I was somewhere else. The problem with the whole "should I quit my day job or keep it" question is that there are endless variables involved. Obviously, I needed to stop doing electrical work, but I also needed to pay the bills. It was very hard to find a regular job that would fit in with a creative venture. The big problem is that every boss in the world wants you to devote 100% of your energy to their endeavor. They expect you to be able to drop everything at a moment's notice and do something for them. Well, of course, who wouldn't want that? But creative people need a job that is kind of the exact opposite, and those jobs are hard to come by. The very nature of regular work and creative work are absolute juxtapositions. The real question isn't, should I quit my day job or keep it? The real question is, what do I want from life? There are as many ways to go after a dream as there are dreams to go after. Everyone who has found success seems to think that they have the ultimate answer. Well, no one has the answer to how best pursue your dream, Only you can find that answer. That person telling you the best way to live your life isn't going to live your life. Finding the best path takes hard work, lots of soul searching, and a thorough examination of conscience. It's your life. It's your dream. Find your path, because you only live once. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and be sure to like and comment on today's show. Now, the PortaOrgan is not exactly like playing a conventional organ console. It's a little more like playing a MIDI keyboard stack like you might see for a rock band setup, but it is also extremely convenient. The one drawback is that I have to create custom setups for absolutely every piece of music that I want to play on this instrument. On the other hand, I can load it in a fairly ordinary car and take it just about anywhere and play a really sharp concert. Now, in addition to playing my own ambient music, the PortaOrgan can play some of the classical repertoire. So I'd like to close with Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring by J.S. Bach. Next week, my guest will be international performing artist and world's oldest working comedian, Lynn Ruth Miller. Thank you for joining me today, and we'll see you next week.